There we go. Let me mute it. All right. We're good. All right. Let's be on the record in case number 2021 CR 697, captioned State of Kansas versus Adrian Alberto Melendez. Would the parties announce their appearances, please?
May it please the court, Christopher Schneider, Assistant District Attorney, appears on behalf of the state of Kansas.
Connor Charles Lamb for the defendant, who also appears with me on video or Zoom.
All right. We are here set down for sentencing. We are originally scheduled to be in court this morning. However, with the snowstorm, we all decided it was better part of valor to go ahead and do this by Zoom. I take it, Mr. Melendez, you don't have a problem doing this, and you would waive your personal appearance in court. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
great. All right. So the record should reflect the parties were in court back on November 8th, at which time a plea agreement was reached. The court inquired and accepted that agreement, ordered a pre-sentence investigation, and set it for sentencing today. I have received that pre-sentence investigation. The critical findings are as follows. The primary count of conviction is contained in count 7 of the information. That is it says violation of the Offender Registration Act, but that should be aggravated violation of the Offender Registration Act, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
Agree, Judge.
So the primary offense will be amended to read aggravated violation of Offender Registration Act. That is a severity level 3 non-person felony. The defendant's criminal history score was found to be that of G as in George. That would leave him with a presumption of prison and a presumed underlying range of 68, 72, 77 months. If he has to do that time, he'll be eligible for up to 15% good time credit and subject to 36 months of post-release supervision. Special rules number 46 and number 9 apply to this case. The first one being the Offender Registration Act, and the second one being crime committed while on post-release supervision. If Mr. Melendez is granted probation today, it's presumed to be for a period of 36 months to community corrections. Count 2 of conviction is one of violation of Offender Registration Act. That is a severity level 6 non-person felony. For scoring purposes on subsequent counts, the criminal history score is considered I. That would leave him again with a presumption of prison and a presumed underlying range of 17, 18, or 19 months. The same special rules, the same 15% good time credit and 36 months of post-release supervision apply. I would ask you first, Mr. Schneider, did you have an opportunity to review the PSI? And with the exception of adding the aggravated violation to the count 1, any other corrections, omissions, or challenges to the PSI findings?
Not by the state, Your Honor.
Mr. Lamb, same question.
Judge, we received it last evening. I emailed it over to my client. We reviewed it earlier this morning. We have no corrections. We would agree that the criminal history is G.
All right, thank you. There being no challenges to the criminal history or other findings of the PSI, with the correction to the name of the primary offense, I will adopt the findings of the PSI. Mr. Lamb, you filed a motion for a dispositional departure. Would you like to be heard on that this morning?
Judge, all I would say is that we entered into a plea agreement with the state. The state has agreed to jointly recommend that the defendant receive probation. He has accepted responsibility, and as noted, this is one of those cases where he didn't register as he was supposed to. He admitted that there was no other crime. So for me, it's lesser than your typical types that are a level 3 crime. So Judge, we would ask you to find that there's there's reasons that probation would be best in this case and grant the defendant an opportunity. I also know the plea agreement adds the court to run the counts concurrent, and we would just ask court to follow the plea agreement.
All right, thank you. Mr. Schneider, I'd hear your comments as to defendant's motion and anything else touching upon sentencing.
Judge, Mr. Lamb is correct. I would ask the court to follow the plea agreement in this case. We did agree to the recommendations that he recited, that to recommend that you run the sentences in this case concurrent with each other, and that you grant a dispositional departure. I would tell the court the underlying charge which gave rise to the obligation to register was a drug offense in this case, albeit arising in federal court. So that indicates that there's some seriousness to it. But I would hope that at this point the defendant understands his obligations, whether he likes it or not, agrees with it or not, to register as the law requires.
All right, thank you, Mr. Schneider. Mr. Melendez, now is your opportunity to tell me anything you want me to know in mitigation of your sentence today.
Well, yeah, I mean, all I gotta say is, yeah, I made a mistake. I was fresh out of federal prison, and I was doing, I felt at first some kind of way that, I just, did my time and I got out, and, I did almost about 7 years. And, but yeah, it was a mistake in my part. I see I got consequences for it. I know that it's wrong. I've been doing it ever since then. For the last couple of years, I've been going and registering. So I just, try. I'm not going to make that mistake again if y'all granted me probation.
Fantastic. All right, thank you. Mr. Lamb, do you know any legal reason why I should not now proceed to sentencing?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Well, Mr. Melendez, the lawyers probably are sick of hearing me say this, but I tell them this on these kind of registration cases all the time. I think the registration is an important act, and I get it. And I think that it is designed really, I think, to address to people who are actively engaged in criminal activity and are wanting to cover up where they're living and what they're doing so they're not under monitoring. But unfortunately, I think it also scoops up people who are in like your position, who just frankly didn't take care of business, right?
Yeah.
And there should be some sort of sanction to that, but I'm not sure that the large sanctions that follow these cases are necessarily appropriate for people in your position, because I do feel like you're one, particularly since you've been registering ever since, as somebody that just didn't take care of it. I think it seems like an extreme punishment. And I've always been very thankful to the state and our county prosecutor's office in these cases, because I think they kind of share that view with me. It would be very easy for Mr. Schneider and his office to say, you know what, this is an easy case for us. It's not going to be hard to make our case in front of a jury, and we can give this guy, frankly, you're looking at a mid box of what, 6 years in prison. But I think they kind of view this as I do, and are very flexible in working out the kind of plea that you got today. And like I said, I think it's generous on their part, because it'd be really easy for them just to say, no, you got to agree to go to prison because our case is so easy to make. But like I said, they're reasonable on this, and I agree with your plea arrangement. I do find that your attorney and you have established compelling and substantial reasons to depart from the sentencing guidelines. And I'm going to adopt the defendant's motions comments today, and frankly, the court's comments as to this act as those substantial and compelling reasons to depart from the sentencing guidelines. So look, I want, as we leave here, I want you to understand this. What we're saying here, I hope, is like a real wake-up call. And I know that it is, because you've started registering as you're supposed to even before we got here. But you need to make sure that you have a plan to do that for as long as you're on this, because if you keep catching failure to register cases, eventually the state says, well, you know, he's been warned enough, and he's just not going to do it. And that's when it kind of changes from, you know, everybody agrees that this is pretty harsh for what went on and all of that. And you end up doing some time, which I think would be stupid, particularly if it's just a case of not taking care of business. I don't know that I need to spend a lot of time on that, because I really get the feeling from you that you've addressed this and that you're taking care of business. So I don't have a lot of concerns about that. All right, so let's get to the sentencing. For count 7, that being the aggravated violation of the Offender Registration Act, a severity level 3 non-person felony with a criminal history score of G, the defendant will be sentenced to the standard sentence of 72 months in the Department of Corrections. If he has to do that time, he'll be eligible for up to 15% good time credit and subject to 36 months of post-release supervision. As to count 2, that being the violation of the Offender Registration Act, a severity level 6 non-person felony with a criminal history score of I, he will be sentenced to the standard range of 18 months in the Department of Corrections, with the same 15% good time credit and 36 months of post-release supervision. That count is ordered to run concurrently with that in count 1. The defendant's application for probation is considered and it is granted to community corrections for a period of 36 months. One of the specific terms of this probation be that he comply with his registration requirements in the underlying case or cases. Somebody remind me, as special rule number 9 committed on post-release supervision, it is mandatory that this case run consecutively to that case in which he is on post-release. Is that correct, Mr. Schneider?
I think so, Judge.
Yeah. Mr. Lamb, you agree with that?
I do,
And
Judge.
Yeah.
is
So
he
I don't
on-
know if he still has anything left in that post-release sentence that is, well, no, look, it's not a Kansas sentence, it's a federal
It's a
sentence.
federal case.
Right, it's
Yeah,
a federal
so-
sentence, Judge.
I'm not worried about that. It can run concurrently with his federal sentence. I'm not worried about that. All right. Mr. Melendez, tell me a little bit, what do you do for a living?
Well, actually, I was working as a dispatcher for Risenberger since I got out of prison. I got out in 2017 in April, and I've been there since May.
Okay.
And I've and to be honest, last month I quit because I've been there this whole time, and they weren't giving me a raise, and I had an opportunity to get another job doing the same thing for trailer trucks.
Yep.
But since they seen they looked at my background and seen this on there, so they decided that that they weren't going to hire me. So I figured I'll probably just go back to my old job, because they said that if I need to, that I can go back whenever. So if
Okay.
I don't find another opportunity that's going to be better, I was going to probably just go back if I'm not able to.
All right.
Judge,
Tell me
I'm-
this, are
he's
you
in
still
unemployment
paying?
For this time, I'm gonna ask if you I'm gonna ask that you waive the bids and the cost, because he has been in
Well-
unemployment for,
Bids, it says you're retained. Is that not correct?
if that's true, then that's fine. Then
Okay.
I am retained.
All right.
That proves I don't distinguish between the two, Judge.
All right. How much are you still paying on costs and stuff on your federal case, Mr. Melendez?
My federal case, no, I paid that as soon as I got out. Yeah, I paid that right away. What I owe,
Right.
I don't owe nothing for my federal.
So here's what we're looking at here. It's not very much. Court costs and supervision fees, which are, this is a ballpark. It's roughly about $300, a little bit more than that. You're already in the DNA database, so we don't have to do that. You've retained your attorney, so you don't have to do that. I'm not fining you anything. So if I ordered you to pay that at, say, $50 a month, you would be paid off early in your case. Do you think that's a particular hardship, or do you think you could make that?
$50. I should be able to handle
All right.
that.
Well, I don't want to set you up for failure. What if I said 25? That would still get you paid off before you were out of probation.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's fine. I mean, and if
Okay.
I can pay it earlier, I'll pay it earlier. You know, once I get my job, get myself back together, I'll take
Okay.
care of it first.
Super. All right. So the order is minimum payment of $25 a month. That's court costs and supervision fee. All right. So I have a couple of advisements, Mr. Melendez. You have 14 days from today to appeal anything you do not like about your sentence. You also may be able to seek expungement of this conviction after a period of time following successful completion of probation. As a convicted felon, it's prohibited for you to own or possess a firearm and certain kind of deadly cutting instruments like dirks, daggers, switchblades, basically knives that could be considered deadly weapons. Do you understand all that?
Yes, sir.
All right. Do we have any jail time credit in this case, Mr. Schneider?
1 day, Your Honor.
1 day. Does that sound right, Mr. Melendez? You did 1 day on this?
Yes, just
All
one
right.
night.
You'll be granted that jail time credit. Okay. Mr. Schneider, anything you can think of that I didn't cover today?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Lamb?
No, Judge, I just need my client to understand, you're gonna have to go and report as soon as possible. I know it's snowing today, Judge, so can you give me until tomorrow?
Well, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to, when I go off of YouTube here in a second, to give him a phone number to Community Corrections, and I'll just have him call in today. He'll probably, I don't know if anyone's staffing it or not, but they'll get back to him and set him an appointment. All right. So,
That'd be
Mr.
great.
Melendez, what we're saying is, I'm going to give you a phone number here to call Community Corrections today and set up a time to come in and get started. Understand that this isn't a registration case. You don't have to register for this case, but you still have to register for your old case. Okay, so keep doing that, and it'll be all good. Because if you fail, like I said, not only would you look at new charges, but it could revoke your probation in this case. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So let me cut YouTube off here, and I'll give you that phone number. Other things for our record before we adjourn.
Mr. Lamb, either Cheyenne or myself will send you an electronic